Hello, hello. Here we are with the empty cube. I'm sorry, my voice is a bit weird, but this is the tutorial on projection. Projecting an image, a postcard or whatever, in this case, a quite beautiful postcard that I found on the internet of a Nubian pyramid, which is a type of pyramid that it's in Sudan, what is now Sudan. But it belonged to a kingdom. They were built like 1,000 years after the famous Egyptian pyramids. But so you see, there are places I haven't visited, but I wish I could. Anyway, we're going to project this into a texture, into an object. Like, yes, basically get a 3D version of the pyramid. It's quite cool. Okay, so how do we do it? First, we click on the camera. Then we click on the N key, N as in nothing. We check view, we set camera to view. Then we click on the camera there, and we realize it's not actually the camera I'm looking for, it's the printer. And I'm going to check the image that I had before. Going to press Command I and check here what is the size. So it's 1300 by 1984. Great. I'm going to say that the camera then is 1300 by 1984, just like in the photograph. Good. Now I'm going to select the camera here. I'm going to click on the camera. Remember that any object that you have, the green button is the context sensitive button. So I check on the camera, I check on background images, I add an image, and I have it conveniently on the desktop, so it should be kind of easy. And beautiful, yeah, it's amazing. It's like we have a kind of like a sort of a green screen, kind of. Since this is a drawing, this is not going to be very it doesn't need to be very precise. You can adjust the focal length. Remember, the highest number, the less likely the perspective lines will converge. In this case, I think that 75 is kind of okay. 75, I said. Thank you. Great, so I'll position this. The most important thing though when you're positioning this is the horizon. Okay, so I think I'm gonna sort of put it there. Great. And I want this to be, the thing that you don't want is to have the horizon on top above the camera, even if it's a drawing. Good. That's for positioning the image. Now you need to create a new material. So materials are, I have my cube selected here. I know it's a pyramid and not a cube, but bear with me. I'm going to press minus, I'm going to press new, and I'm going to say pyramid postcard, or postcard from Sudan. Base color, I'm going to press there on base color. I'm going to say that it is an image texture. And I already loaded that image, so instead of pressing new or open, I can just click on the icon and press the image. That's it. And you probably won't see nothing, but if I press on the shading option there, ideally that one, you will see that it has like a wrong version of the image. So how do we fix that? How do we make it the right version? That is a property of the object. So I select the object, I click on the wrench, which is to add a modifier. Modifiers are cool. I can do, I don't know, wireframe. People always like it. The wireframe takes the edges and makes faces. So it's kind of nice, modern. But we're not going to do a wireframe, we're going to do a UV project. So this will project the texture from the point of view of the camera. Object, You click there, you have a camera. You can try it out if you click light and then you select the light and you move the light, you will see that the perspective moves, but that's why we're using the camera and not the light. And we have that. You can have, as you can see, you can have different projectors, which is kind of cool. Especially for faces or stuff like that. But now we have that. You might see that the image is a bit skewed because the aspect is not correct. The aspect has to be the same size of the image. So you go back to the printer and 13 by 984. Go back here and I say that it's 13 by 984 and sorry, 984. And it should match almost perfectly. If it's not matching perfectly, it's because you need to add subdivision surfaces and make sure that you make them not Catmull Clark like there, but simple. You add a couple and it will improve the image. But I will add it later because I want to do some compositing on this first. Good. Now I can start working on this. So I will just select that face there. Select that face there. This is kind of perfect for architecture stuff. If I press the 1 button, I can move points. If I press this button, I can move that face. And if I step out of the camera by clicking the camera icon, I can see that my pyramid is quite the cheat. Because this doesn't look like a pyramid at all. So I'm actually going to, you know, make it more of a pyramid. That's a bit better. And actually I can, yeah, it's not such a bad idea to work it from here. I press the R button, stands for rotation. And I really want this to be a nice pyramid. If you're wondering why, I mean, again, I always say this stuff, but if it seems easy, it's because, well, I've done this a lot. And practice makes not perfect, just easy. In your case, you can sort of see that it's not like a perfect pyramid at all. But it will be. You just have to be a bit patient. You might also notice, as we saw in class, that some of the faces are projected, and that's something that we can go back in a while. But I'll press on the camera icon again to make sure that some of the things are working. I'll go back into edit mode here. I just want to make sure that I just want to capture the texture. I will add another cube for that like entrance that it has. I will press on the camera again, and this is a interesting property of materials. So I can put the same material, but I need to add the same modifier too. The same modifier with a separate object. I'm going to add the UV project. Set to the camera. And I'll work a bit on this part. In class, you might remember that I did this with a building. Buildings are a bit easier to work with than most other things. It's still kind of cool. Height is okay. I'll do that. I press, you might wonder why, like how does this work? I just press 1 is for dots, and I press G, that is for graph, and then I press the axis. So if I press X, it moves on the X axis. If I press again G, if I press Z, it moves on the I and the vertical axis. If I press X, it moves on the horizontal one. It's pretty convenient. Pretty good, as that TV character says. Character? No, person, but nice. Okay, this is turning into something. I can add a subdivision. How did you do that? I am in edit mode and I press Control R. I come here. This is called an edge loop, and I can just start working on this stuff. I made an entrance. I'm gonna push this one here and push this one here. For the purpose of this example, I think it sort of works. If I go back, like if I add an object, how do you add an object quickly? It's Shift A, Mesh, Cube. And we want this to be like buried in the sense of time, so I scale it, make it go higher. Gonna switch to the render view to make it a bit more dramatic. An interactive postcard. Yeah, matching the lights helps. Okay, and you might wonder, yeah, like you want that, like I want to model that, so I'm gonna press this thing icon there. I'm gonna check remesh, voxel remesh, and then go into sculpt mode. Come on, voxel remesh. This is not a difficult object to make. But I go then into sculpt mode and object remesh. Well, if it's not working, I can just press dynamic topology, and that should be enough. And now I have some weird sand. It's a weird thing what happened with this thing. But anyway, more important than adding sand to these is the fact that you might want to, something that we briefly saw in the class, you might want to avoid that stretching, right? Like that one. If you want to avoid that stretching, that's a UV property or a texture property. If I go into texture paint, for instance, and I want to get rid of some parts, I could go to the, texture paint mode. I could come here, press press Option. Hi, no. I don't know what is that. A McDonald's? I think so. Yeah, well, point is you can just paint. If I use the clone brush there and I press Control on one side, press Control, that becomes the source. And then I can overlap paint, but you will notice that it will also paint the other one. Which brings me to UV maps, which is something that everybody loves to hate, but I do kind of like, even though it's a bit obnoxious. So we have two objects, and both objects are sharing, like are borrowing references from that image. If I check on this one, I press A. The Christianity of screens is kind of amazing, but it will show you that. But we need to first apply the UV project, so I'm going to press Command A. Now I press it, and I can see where the faces are. So if I press 3 and I press this face, I see that this face is pointing here. If I press the other face, actually it's good that it's using that face, but this one, that one should be using the other one. So I'm going to use that one and just ask it, like, move these points. I'm going to press Z here and check rendered, and there I can see how I can repeat the texture in different parts. Same here. I find that the relation between texture and image is kind of, I find it fascinating. It has this thing about illusion that I find so compelling. In any case, I'm going to use this one for the back too. Maybe a bit too much, but it will do the work. What else? You might want to, in this case, actually I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to use a mesh grid. A grid object is an object that is, as the name says, a grid. So there you can see the grid. And I'm going to go into sculpting. I can press set rendered so I can actually see the thing. Press F to make the brush larger, and you can move this a bit. Making landscapes is easier than it seems. Ooh, look, buried in the sand. And subdivision. A couple of subdivisions. If you press Control and you click, you can sort of push stuff the other way. If you don't like the objects to look so blocky, pixelated as they used to say, go back into Layout, which is here, right click and press Shade Smooth. In any case, this seems sort of okay. I can repeat the procedure here. I can press Command A to apply that. Once it's applied, it doesn't matter where I move the image, the object, it will respect its relationship to the object, which is kind of nice. So you can improvise a bit. I'll put it there. Still readable, right? But look, that pyramid. Yeah, it does work. That object there, yeah, that is a bit more complex. Certain cases it might be useful to, normally when you're working with projections, you want to repeat the angle. We will see later on how to deal with this issue of the image there, but basically you need to create another version of it, which quickly would be kind of like taking the texture there, like going into texture paint and saying like, you know what, I'm going to press Control there. And of course one could do it in Photoshop, but you would need to make a copy of this version on the other side. What you can do though, that is perhaps more funny, is to add a plane Remember that when we're working in 3D, we're not like simulating the world. You're creating an illusion of it. But here I have the camera. If you want the camera to move with you, you need to go into N, View, Camera to View. And the perennial fascination with pyramids. Why do we like pyramids? I don't know. Please don't quote the Freud thing. I'm going to actually, for this I don't need to go to the whole hassle of weird material, projecting materials. I can just check the postcard, go to UV editing, press A, turn it around, and ask it to copy. A section. Of course, you don't, since it's a background, you don't want it to be, you don't want it to have shadow. But again, that's gonna be for a separate thing. I'll push it to the back in the meantime so that the shadow doesn't affect it as much. But it's nice, right? Again, I can select the camera, press N, press View, press Camera to View. I'm going to choose the camera here and make the camera a bit smaller. We have some sort of nice scenery for something. Not that bad, right? Well, that is with projections. Okay, if you want to try it out, it's always good to test on things that you don't really care. But I would recommend looking for crates. There's something about crates that is like the donut tutorial that people like making texture for crates. Or container might be better. Yeah, container is perfect to make a texture too. So you could try it with that, but the point of the assignment though has to do with memory, so try to do something that involves a memory of yours. That's it. Nice artist. I hope this helps out. Remember to save the images. Remember when you're doing this, press image save. Remember that whatever blend file you save, always use external data, automatically pack resources, double check external data, pack resources. And when you're saving, also press N and press compress. Make sure that compress is checked out. Okay, Sudan pyramids. Name well. Ta-da!